to Hi Guys, BDR here, back with another AQW video, and today we're going to be doing an overview on the Phantasm Chronomancer. Now, the Phantasm Chronomancer has finally arrived. It's kind of been like a couple of weeks now, but yeah, it's finally here in the Hero Mart map, ready to be purchased for 6k ACs. Now, how to get this class is the same as all of them, AC shop. Scroll all the way down to TC 2025 time lock key. Cannot be sold or refunded and contains the Mortis Phantasm Chronomancer class and armor set. So once you have, that, you could just go here, next decade, and you could also, buy the class, the armor, the guns, the scythe, the helm, excuse me again. So yeah, that's basically what you can get in the shop. Alright then, now for the skills. Its auto attack is the clock is ticking. It is a 1.8 second cooldown, physical medium range, one target. Dealing unavoidable damage while applying no escape from death, reducing their dodge by 30%, outgoing damage by 20%, and crit chance by 15% for 20 seconds. Damage is dealt based on spell power and the number of seconds to midnight stacks you have. Your rank 1 skill, Reaping Rift, 4 mana, 3 second cooldown, magical, medium range, 1 target. Applies Temporal Rift for 10 seconds, which stacks to 4 and is used by your other abilities. If Death Sentence is activated, it is consumed to apply Guillotine, reducing your opponent's physical and magical resistance by 45% for 12 seconds. Then you have The Clock Strikes Midnight. 10 mana, 3 second cooldown, magical, long range, 1 target. Applies seconds to midnight for 12 seconds, increasing the damage of each successful hit of the skill up to 4 times. If Death Sentence is active, it is consumed to apply Impalement, increasing your outgoing damage by 20% for 12 seconds. Your rank 3 skill, Final Hours, 50 mana, 3 second cooldown, magical, long range, 1 target. If you don't have Temporal Rift, you enshroud your presence, increasing your dodge by 40% while healing you over time for 12 seconds. If you have 4 stacks of seconds to midnight, applies Death Sentence, increasing your crit chance by 40% for 3 seconds. Your rank 4 passives are Sharpened Scythe, right there. Hit chance increased by 10% and crit chance increased by 5%. And a Swift Death. Just see this right here. Haste increased by 30% and dodge increased by 20%. The rank 4 passives right there. Your rank 5 skill, Time of Death, 12 second cooldown, magical, long range, 1 target. Dealing damage based on the amount you've dealt in the last 10 seconds while Temporal Rift is active. Damage scales with each stack of Temporal Rift and consumes those stacks. Removes seconds to midnight and Death Sentence. And finally, for your rank 10 passive, Harvested Time, outgoing magic damage is increased by 25%. If your target has Temporal Rift or Chaos Rift, Final Hours reduces their haste by 50% for 3 seconds. Also, let me just see. Yeah, there goes Sharpened Scythe, and there goes Swift Death. So based on what we read about the class, this class kind of has like a dodge, the same thing as Necromancer, stack your Temporal Rifts and nuke. But, this one can also apply debuffs as well. Alright, then let's move on to combos and enhancements. Alright, people, so here's the build for Phantasm Chronomancer. Ravenous, because, you kind of want to do damage with this class. I mean, there is Elysium if you truly care, about mana more than DPS, because, I mean, whopping 50. Wizard, I mean, for most offensive and power casters, you do want to put on Wizard. Lammet for crits and Examine for that less mana cost. And go right here. Alright then, this class kind of has like 2 different builds. A DPS build and a dodge build. So first I'm going to be showing off, the dodge build. Alright then, for your combo, what you want to do here is, spam 3 and 2. 4 times, and then you're going to want to do 4, 2, 4, 3, and then 5. And then that will be, your combo. 4, 2, 4, 3, and then 5. Okay, we got a 226k right there. So with this class, it just, prioritizes its dodge right there. 4, 2, 4, 3, and then 5. You know, this class does require a high amount of concentration to really do for the nukes. And we could just keep it right there. 48 seconds. I mean, pretty, pretty good for this chrono class. But yeah, that's pretty much the combo right there. With the dodge combo, that's pretty much what it is. At times you will take, some bit of damage, but it just mainly focuses on dodge rather than just, nuking. So in terms of soloing the dodge combo, it's a good one. All right then, let's move on to the DPS combo. All right then, now it's time for the DPS combo. For the DPS combo, what you want to do here is, use 3 and 2, spam 3 and 2 four times, and then 4, then just, spam 4, 2, 3. And when the opponent's HP is low, then you use your 5. This is basically kind of like, your build up. Your build up right here, you wait until the boss's HP is low, then you use your 5. Now again, 4, 2, 4. Then, 3, and then you just want to just keep on spamming, spamming, spamming. 4, 2, 4. I feel like this is like low enough. And bam. That's DPS right there. That's basically, the more DPS nuking combo. You just want to keep on doing that combo. The 3, 2, 4, 2, 4 combo. And when you feel like, the opponent's HP is low, then you press your 5 for like a big time nuke. 300k, pretty nice right there. 47 seconds, 46 seconds. So in terms of, the DPS combo, it can give you some good nukes. It just requires high amounts of concentration and focus. Alright then, let's move on to farming. Alright guys, so this is a single targeting class that requires a lot of high maintenance to do a nuke. Yeah, don't use this class for farming. Alright, let's move on to survivability. Alright people, so in terms of survivability, I mean without its dodge, yeah. Even with even with its dodge, at times it can get, squished up by, hard hitting bosses as well. The mana costs are crazy. I mean, you're doing all these like combos for like a nuke that's like, other chronos could do easily and, less effort. You know, just with this class, it's just squishy. That's pretty much it for defenses, even with its dodge build. At times, even with the dodge build, you still can get caught lacking. And it's basically a race against time. Can't get it. Chronomancer joke. But yeah. In terms of survivability, even with its dodge, at times it can get caught lacking by, bosses like Warlord Icewing, Primarch, Legion Lichlord. And there are times where you could beat them, if, you get lucky with your dodge. Alright then, let's move on to support, and then final thoughts. Alright, so in terms of support, it has its auto attack, which applies no escape from death, reducing dodge by 30, outgoing damage by 20, and crit chance by 15%. And its 2 skill can also, reduce the opponent's physical and magical resistance by 45% for 12 seconds if Death Sentence is active. And as it being a chrono, it could provide, good nukes as well, and great nukes, when, drenched in support. So in terms of support, it could provide DPS and some debuffs as a chrono. Alright then, the pros about Phantasm Chronomancer is that it can be used as the DPS in a handful of ultras. It has good nukes as a chrono, and it has 2 different builds, dodge and DPS, depending on which type of play you want to do. That's pretty much it for pros. Alright then, the cons about Phantasm Chronomancer is that, it's 6 KACs, and that it's very high maintenance, meaning it wants you to like press all these things multiple times for a nuke that like Timekeeper and Chrono Shadow Slayer like can do for like a lot less and a lot more. Lot more. And its final hour skill is a 50 mana cost. I believe that should be reduced to 40 or 35 mana. And sometimes with its dodge, you can get, hit by hard hitting bosses like Icewing, Legion Lichlord, Primarch, etc. Alright then. For my final verdict about Phantasm Chronomancer is that Phantasm Chronomancer is still a good chrono, it's just very high maintenance to get its nukes. I only recommend getting this class if you have the 6 KCs and you already have, Chrono Shadow Slayer or Timekeeper and are looking for something new to use. Alright people, that's pretty much been it for the Phantasm Chronomancer video. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. How do you feel about Phantasm Chronomancer? Like, what type of buffs you would give it? Comment section right then and there. Alright then. Hi guys, out. Like, share, and subscribe.